Scroll Why the Civil War Still Matters Today. Introduction. More than a war of the past. The American Civil War ended over 160 years ago, but its wounds still shape the nation today. It wasn't just a battle over secession or slavery. It was a war over the soul of the United States. The Civil War defined what kind of country America would be, and its legacies live on in everything from race relations and voting rights to regional identity, the role of government, and even monuments. This is the full story of why the Civil War still matters, not as distant history, but as a living force in American life. Chapter 1. What caused the Civil War? Contrary to revisionist myths, the Civil War was fundamentally about slavery. Southern states seceded to protect the institution of slavery, as they clearly stated in their own secession declarations. The election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860 on an anti-slavery expansion platform was the final straw for Southern leaders. While states' rights were cited, the primary right in question was the right to own enslaved people. The war broke out in April 1861 when Confederate forces fired on Fort Sumter. Chapter 2. A Nation Torn Apart, 1861 to 1865. The Civil War became the bloodiest conflict in U.S. history, with over 750,000 dead, more than any other American war. Major battles like Gettysburg, Antietam, and Shiloh define the scale of devastation. Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, reframing the war as a fight to end slavery. By 1865, the Union prevailed, the Confederacy was defeated, and slavery was abolished by the 13th Amendment. But the end of the war did not mean peace or justice. Chapter 3. The Failed Promise of Reconstruction. After the war, the U.S. entered the Reconstruction era, 1865 to 1877. The 14th and 15th Amendments granted citizenship and voting rights to formerly enslaved people. Black Americans were briefly elected to Congress. Schools, churches, and communities flourished, but progress was violently opposed. White supremacist groups like the Ku Klux Klan emerged. Southern states passed black codes and later Jim Crow laws to reassert white control. The federal government abandoned Reconstruction in 1877, leaving African Americans at the mercy of segregation and terror. Reconstruction's failure meant that the Civil War's promise, true freedom and equality, was left incomplete. Chapter 4. The War in Memory and Myth. After the war, Americans engaged in a battle of memory. The Lost Cause myth, promoted in the South, recast the Confederacy as noble and heroic and downplayed slavery as a cause. Confederate monuments were erected not right after the war, but during the Jim Crow era and the Civil Rights Movement, as symbols of resistance to racial progress. For decades, textbooks taught a whitewashed version of the war, erasing black perspectives. This manipulated memory continues to fuel modern debates over Confederate flags, statues, and how history is taught. Chapter 5. Race, Rights, and the Ongoing Struggle. The Civil War ended slavery, but not racism. Its unresolved tensions continue to shape systemic inequality in housing, education, and criminal justice. Voting rights restrictions, especially targeting black communities. Debates over policing, reparations, and civil rights legislation. Modern movements like Black Lives Matter draw a direct line from slavery and segregation to present-day injustice. The Civil War remains the beginning of a struggle that has never truly ended. Chapter 6. Federal Power versus States' Rights. The Civil War also settled, but didn't erase, questions about federal authority. Before the war, the U.S. was often described as these United States. Afterward, it became the United States, singular, not plural. The Union's victory solidified the idea that the federal government has supremacy over states, especially on matters of civil rights and national law. Yet today, debates over states' rights persist in abortion, gun laws, immigration, and education. Chapter 7. Sectionalism and Regional Identity. The Civil War deepened the divide between North and South, one that still lingers. Cultural, political, and racial attitudes often fall along regional lines that echo Civil War alliances. Many Southern states still fly Confederate flags or honor Confederate figures, sparking conflict over national identity. The divide between red states and blue states often parallels Union versus Confederate geography. This isn't coincidence, it's legacy. Chapter 8: Monuments, Memory, and the Fight over History. In the 21st century, America has begun reevaluating its public memory. Confederate statues have been torn down or removed in dozens of cities. Schools are being renamed. Debates rage over whether this is erasing history or finally telling the truth. At the heart of these fights is a central question. What version of America should we remember, and who gets to decide? Conclusion: a war that never fully ended. The Civil War ended slavery and preserved the Union. But it did not end the deeper conflict over race, equality, power, and truth. Every time America confronts civil rights, voting rights, police violence, or even school curriculums, it is still grappling with the unfinished business of the Civil War. We cannot understand modern America or hope to fix it unless we understand why the Civil War still matters today.